So today I'm showing an experiment that I've got going on in the house. One of our designs, this is what I call the Mendocino. Mendocino, California is famous for having mastered indoor gardening, pioneered indoor gardening. Nonetheless, we're pioneering some processes here. This is aquaponics. Obviously, this is a very sort of newly embraced methodology of growing plants and fish. But I'm also experimenting. I'm doing this indoors with a table system and an LED light in a room that stays fairly cold in the winter, and it's been cold lately. So the plants are not particularly growing very fast in this system. With the LED lights, it may be that the fish, we started a little late with these fish, transferring them out of these other tanks as they got crowded, and I moved another tank outside. Could have been that. It could be, but more likely, in my opinion, is probably the heat, because I understand these LED lights are pretty remarkable. So some of the features of these plants are, though, that they are rooting quite nicely, because you can tell because they're throwing off a lot of new growth. Spinach is looking good. I don't do very well with spinach outdoors at all. It's easy to get sort of overtaken, overcooked, dried out. All these plants are staying very well hydrated, and everything's rooting nicely. And while the plants aren't bolting, are growing very, very brisk, very with much density right now. Except the shard seems to be doing pretty well. They're taking root, and that is in all likelihood due to the cold rocks, which creates cold bacterial environment. Plants like to grow in a warmer environment too, so the bacteria that produces nitrogen and the plants that need the nitrogen aren't really doing much. By the same token, the fish aren't eating too much. The water is fairly warm, but it's a bigger volume of water for not. There's about 8 fish in there, and they're about 1/2 to 3/4 of a pound on average. But I think it's the temperature, and by comparison, we're doing very similar here, although this water is more, it's probably more concentrated. But I think we're getting more growth here because we have a warm metal halide that's keeping the temperature nice and toasty. So bacteria is proliferating, plants are warm enough to photosynthesize. Same here. We're using a T5 halogen light, and it throws off a little bit of heat, so that's contributing to possibly to the growth here. A lot of flowering arugula. Earlier, the system, because of the fact that there's probably a lot of phosphorus in the water, secondary to these crawfish, which are very happy and doing quite well, and they're pretty heavy eaters. This system has a lot of flowering that's been happening, a lot of bolting. So that's been interesting. Nonetheless, we have more warmth in this side of the room than we do over here, and yet we've got good root growth. So that's the experiment, and I'll be sort of checking back in to see how things progress. That's it. We're over now.